Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about our usual crypto. We're going to be talking about the chart TA and everything. But for this video, I want to go ahead and start with comparing Bitcoin to the NASDAQ. And I've done a whole video about this in which I've talked about Bitcoin's insane correlation with the NASDAQ, and I'll make sure I put the link up here at the top right. But Bitcoin had another strongly negative day. It was down almost 2%. And if you take a look at the NASDAQ composite, it's very close to the NASDAQ, in which that was down 1.5%. And so I want to go ahead and start this video off by just looking at the NASDAQ here for a minute, because the correlation between the Bitcoin and the NASDAQ has been very tight. And when they diverge, or when they don't move together, then I think that's more odd than not. And when that does happen, when they diverge, I definitely want to let you guys know, and specifically my thoughts on the matter. But generally speaking, when the NASDAQ goes down, I also expect Bitcoin to go down as well. And this was a day in which the NASDAQ went down and Bitcoin went down. And so what I have here right now is this downwards channel of the NASDAQ, and the reason why Bitcoin has been put under pressure, because it does tend to follow that quite a bit. Now, what's important to point out here is that the strong support level for the NASDAQ right now is at about 10,700, and we're not that far off from that level. And the simple fact is that if the NASDAQ comes down below this level, but below this 10,700 level, I think what's going to happen is that Bitcoin's going to follow it, and Bitcoin's going to be heading down as well. So that's this level right here. I just put the trend line here. But I have the downwards channel for this. You can actually put in what I just did here, this kind of descending triangle pattern, right, in which you have the resistance level that's descending, and then you have the support level down here as well. So one thing I want to go ahead and explain to you guys is just the fact that if the NASDAQ goes down and it goes under this level, there's a very good chance that we're going to wind up seeing Bitcoin go under that support level that it made back in November. And here's your Bitcoin chart, right? And if you'll notice, it looks very similar to the NASDAQ chart, in which you have a previous November low, and then you're kind of in this downtrend right here. So I've outlined this down channel right here. And so if Bitcoin goes below that level of 15,800, about that level or so, then it's very likely that we're going to be probably heading back down to 14,000 at that point. And I think right now, that's probably the most likely outcome, is we're going to come and we're going to retest this level here at 15,700. I don't know if we're going to break through that level, but I do think it's very likely that we're going to retest this level. And then if we break through this level, we could potentially go all the way down to 14,000. But right now, in order to get out of this downwards channel, Bitcoin would have to make a very strong move here to the upside, past the resistance of about 16,500 and about 16,600, somewhere in that range. And that's just breaking the local downtrend. If you actually look at the daily, we can see that it's overall in a downtrend. As you zoom out here and we take a look at this, the long-term trend is still to the downside. So we're in a downtrend inside of a downtrend. So we're basically right in the middle of a bear market for Bitcoin. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Bitcoin funding rate. So the funding rate has shown us that we have a strong number of shorts that came in on the 16th, and shorts were dominant the entire weekend, which is not something you see very often. More often than not, what I wind up seeing is kind of days of patchy shorts and longs and shorts and longs, and they're constantly battling. However, this entire weekend was nothing but shorts being dominant. So that just goes to show you that the prevalent attitude and sentiment right now is overly negative, overly bearish towards Bitcoin. And if we zoom out here a little bit, we can just see that just ever since late November, shorts have been more dominant than longs have been. You can see this because the funding rate down here turns negative here for these perpetual contracts, whereas the longs, when they're dominant, it turns green. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is we're looking at a flip in the short term, where the longs are now dominant. However, I don't really expect this to last. Like I said, I think the shorts are going to come back and take over yet again and push the price down. Also, very important to point out that we still have a massive number of options that are going to be due on the 30th of December, and we're really close to that level already. I mean, we have about 2 weeks left until the end of the year, until the 30th of December, and these contracts need to be exercised. Either they will be exercised at a loss, or they will be exercised at a gain in case of the puts here, depending on what the options price is. But this is going to create a massive amount of volatility in Bitcoin and in crypto, because it's not just Bitcoin that's doing this. If you go and you take a look at the options and you go down to ETH as well, you can see in Ethereum that there's also a massive number of these contracts that are going to expire, or these options that are going to expire on the 30th of December. And so we're going to see some serious volatility by the end of the year. We could see a move to the upside or an extreme move to the downside. And if it's an extreme move to the downside, I think what's going to happen is we're going to wind up seeing that final capitulation event that'll flush everything out of the system, and we'll wind up seeing Bitcoin go down to a price of 14,000, maybe 13,000 at the lowest, and that will flush out everybody from the system and will make that bear market bottom at that point. There's also another interesting point that I want to bring up here regarding the Fed funds rate is that when the Fed raises rates, right, it has a negative impact on the Bitcoin price and on growth stocks as a whole and tech stocks. But when the Fed raises rates, it's not positive for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, it usually winds up taking, according to Forbes here, between 9 to 12 months between the last rate hike and the first cut. Okay, so what that means is that if the Fed goes into Q1 of next year and they start, and then they do their last rate hike right at the Q1 of next year, let's say like March or somewhere in that time frame, then it's probably going to take about 9 months or so for them to start cutting. You know, on average, that would put it at Q4 of next year, and Q4 of next year would mean that by that time, I think that Bitcoin would have already turned bullish by Q4 of next year, because then the Fed will start cutting rates, and when the Fed starts cutting rates, that means people generally adopt, investors and institutions adopt a more risk-on attitude. So that's a little bit of a long-term kind of thinking with Bitcoin together with the short-term. I don't usually like to put the two together, but I do think that it's important to point this out, because a lot of creators and a lot of analysts will only look at like chart TA, and they won't try to look at the broader macro picture. And the macro picture matters so much for Bitcoin and for crypto, and just to see where the long-term price is going to wind up. All right, so we're going to also take a look at Ethereum as well. Ethereum is in a very similar kind of downtrend here. I have this downward channel here outlined, and so it's actually kind of close to the top of this. It's at about 1175. If it breaks out of this channel, that would definitely be bullish in the short term, but I do expect that, just like with Bitcoin, it's going to wind up coming back down again, and it's probably going to wind up retesting this level here at about 1100. Now let's talk about Binance Coin. So Binance Coin is in a much worse shape than Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now you see we have this huge drop off, right? I didn't include it as part of my downwards channel because it doesn't really fit. And instead, I think this is more of an aberration. This really only happened about over a 2-day period where it kind of dropped out of this channel, and then boom, it's back into this channel again. So I think that with this channel, what you're looking at is this support level to hold at about 238. And if that doesn't hold, then you're going to come back here to 235, and then you're going to come back here to 225, right? And then below that level, there's not much at all below that level. We zoom out, we can see that the next support level below 235 here is about 220, and then below that is about 196. So I do expect it's going to wind up coming back and retesting these lows over here. All right, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you like the way I kind of talk about the NASDAQ and try to tie this more into the crypto markets, and then also kind of give you a quick macro update on the Fed and the Fed's progress, let me know. And if there's something you guys want to see, also leave a comment and just say, hey, take a look at this. What do you think about this? Definitely more than willing to look at some other chart TA and other options, additionally some other coins too. All right, and definitely recommend you guys check out my Twitter. It has really good information on there that I've compiled, and the most up-to-date information, especially when it comes to Bitcoin and my thoughts on the Bitcoin market. All right, so hope you guys have a fantastic day.